Hi there, you are watching Dennis English Journal channel, and it's another interesting English grammar point lesson, and today we are going to talk about the past continuous tense. So, the past continuous tense, or some people might call it past progressive tense, is one of the most common of two past tenses in English. So, in one of our previous English grammar point lesson, we were talking about the past simple tense. And today we are gonna learn some usings and rules about the past continuous tense. And I'm going to give you a lot of fun and actual examples of using the past continuous tense in your daily conversational English speech. So let's get started. As you can see from the name of the tense, we use the past continuous tense when we talk about past actions, the actions that took place in the past. But unlike the past simple tense, when we use the past continuous tense, we describe ongoing actions. We describe some continuous actions in the past, actions continuing over some period of time. Just a quick few examples before we take a closer look at the structure of this tense. So, for example, yesterday at 8 p.m. I was watching this video. When the doorbell rang, I was eating my dinner. While you was walking to work, I was doing your job. So as you can notice from these examples, the structure of the past continuous tense is very similar to the structure of sentences in which we use the present continuous tense. To form a simple English sentence using the past continuous tense, we should have a subject plus the verb to be in the past tense was or were plus a main verb in ing form. This is a simple structure of affirmative sentence using the past continuous tense. Let's take a look at conjugation of the past continuous. So, when the subject is I, he, she, it, or any singular noun, for example, a dog, a cat, a table, Brad Pitt, we should use was after a subject of the sentence and before a main verb. If a subject of a sentence is we, you, they, or any plural noun, for example, my friends, my co-workers, we should use the form were, the another past form of the verb to be. So you can see in this table how we must use the verb to be depending on a subject of our sentence. So let's move on and take a closer look to main usings of the past continuous tense. So the first usage of the past continuous tense is when we talk about long actions, about ongoing actions that started before a specific point in time and continuing after this specific time. So, for example, yesterday at 8 p.m. I was watching this video. Exactly a year ago, He was traveling to Poland. We were going to cinema yesterday at this time. When they got to the house this morning, the baby was drinking a bottle. She was walking in the park in the evening. As you can see, in these sentences, we have a specific time or specific period of time, for example, 8 p.m., this evening, this morning, the same time last year, and we talk about actions that took place at this specific time, but this is unlike the past simple tense. This is ongoing. This is continuing actions. Actions that started before and maybe continuing after the specific time. The second usage of the past continuous tense is interrupted ongoing actions in the past. And normally, when we talk about interrupted actions in our sentences, we have action in the past continuous tense and we have short action in the past simple tense that stopped the ongoing action. Let's take a look at the examples. While we were playing tennis, it started to rain. So the rain interrupted our tennis game. Alan was cutting the grass the other day when the snake appeared. He was waiting at home all day when she sent him the message. They were drinking coffee when I arrived. She was having a great conversation with him when his ex-girlfriend interrupted it. As you can see from these examples, we normally have when before an interrupting action, before an action in the past simple tense. For example, when the snake appeared, when his ex-girlfriend interrupted it. Or we can put the word while before the action in the past continuous tense. So it's absolutely interchangeable and the meanings of the sentence are the same. So I can say, for instance, we were playing tennis when it started to rain. Or I can switch two clauses, two parts of my sentence. For example, they were drinking coffee when I arrived, or when I arrived, they were drinking coffee. So the meaning is the same. The order of clauses in this case absolutely doesn't matter. So let's move on. The third usage of the past continuous tense is when we talk about some parallel actions or two or more actions that were going at the same time in the past. And please notice that neither of these actions are happening in the present. In this case, in our sentences, both actions are in the past continuous tense. So, for example, I was eating potato chips while I was watching TV. Mark was making pizza while Dorothy was choosing clothes for the party. In this case, as you can see, when we talk about two or more parallel actions, we use the auxiliary word while, and we can put the word while either in the beginning of a sentence or in the middle of the sentence. We can put the word while before any of these clauses, before any of parts of sentence like this. For example, I can say, while Mark was making pizza, Dorothy was choosing clothes for the party. It's absolutely interchangeable. A couple more examples. We were sitting outside while planes were flying overhead. The police were chasing the man while you were talking. I was listening to music and singing out loud while I was cooking dinner. The fourth usage of the past continuous tense is when we set background of a story, when we try to set a scene of a story written in the past tense. For example, last month I was sitting outside. The sun was shining brightly. Few white clouds were floating across the sky. Unexpectedly, darkness fell and heavy rain began. So, as you can see, our sentences in which we used the past continuous tense were some kind of background, some kind of scene that prepared us to the main event of this story, to the heavy rain. One more example of this usage. The other day, my stepsister was walking in the park. Kids were playing with a ball, and dogs were running around and barking. All of a sudden, the police came around. Something like that. The fifth usage of the past continuous tense. We can describe past repeated actions, for example, past habits. Usually annoying, but it's not obligatory. Usually annoying, but not always. So, for example, he was always complaining about his life. My ex-boss was continuously shouting at me. As you can see, we normally use words like always, continuously, forever, and so on. A couple more examples. I was forever making mistakes in my English when I was a student. Grandma was constantly singing songs when she made us breakfast. So by this moment, we learn all main usings of the past continuous tense. Let's take a look at the structure of questions and negative sentences using past continuous. To form a negative sentence, we just should put not in between the auxiliary verb to be, was or were, depending on the subject, and our main verb. So, for example, I was not eating my breakfast today at 5 o'clock. You were not watching this video yesterday, cause you are watching it right now. She was not studying all day yesterday. She was studying only from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., for example. He was not sleeping tight all night long. Of course, in our daily speech, we often use the contraction form. For example, was not becomes wasn't, and were not becomes weren't. So I can say she wasn't studying and they weren't working, for example. The structure of questions using the past continuous tense is also pretty simple. We just should change places of our auxiliary verb to be and our subject. Was it snowing yesterday at 5 o'clock? Were you still skating in the park when Gemma called you? Were the boys working in the garden when their uncle came round for a coffee? It's quite a difficult sentence, but I hope you can get it, guys. Was he playing football at that moment? And the possible answers are yes, he was, or no, he wasn't. Were they staying with their parents? And the possible answers would be yes, they were, or no, they weren't. We also can make special questions, or also known as WH questions, if we need some more information in answers. So, for example, special questions begin from what, where, when, why, which, who, how many, or how much. For example, what was she thinking about last night? She looked worried. What music were they listening to? Why were they drinking vodka yesterday? Well, I hope you got some new information from this lesson and had some fun as well. And now it's time for a quick recap of this lesson. So today we learned the structure of the past continuous tense in affirmative sentences, questions, and negative sentences. We also learn 5 main usings of the past continuous tense. First, ongoing actions in the past started before a specific point and continuing after this specific point. Yesterday, at this time, I was having fun with my friends. Second, long actions in the past interrupted by some small action. I was drinking coffee when my phone rang. Third using, several actions in the past happening at the same time, parallel actions. They were drinking beer when they were watching a soccer game. Fourth using, when we set a background for a story. For example, he was driving his car, music was playing, and then, and the last fifth using of the past continuous is when we talk about repeated actions in the past, mostly when we talk about annoying habits. For example, she was always shouting at me all the time. By the way, I personally like to call the past continuous tense as the storytelling tense, because we often use the past continuous tense when we tell interesting stories to our friends, family, or other people. So please make sure you hit the like button. It's really helpful and it means a lot for me. And subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, because I make really interesting and fun and funny English speaking videos every week. So welcome to our English learning community. Hit the bell button and I'll see you in the next useful and interesting English speaking video. Bye bye for now.